Hello and welcome to Snow Mexicans, A New Hope. Unfortunately, my co-hosts Caligula and Genty Maxi are not here at the moment. Genty Maxi had a previous engagement that she couldn't get. Oh, my thing was broadcasting back to me. Sorry. Genty Maxi will be with us shortly, and unfortunately Caligula, because this is a off-the-cuff afternoon stream as opposed to our evening streams, Caligula will not be here today, and the guest that I was hoping would show up has not. So, with that, I got my nice thick black tar of Canadian coffee. I guess I'll just dive into some of the news. And as some of you may or may not have heard already in the news cycle in Snow, Mexico, is the one, the only, the enigmatic, the sometimes a little foot in mouthy Don Cherry. So for those who don't know, Don Cherry made some comments on Hockey Night in Canada, and he's a staple of Canadian culture, part of Hockey Night in Canada for as long as I've been alive, was a coach for the Boston Bruins, and just a well-known icon in Canada for hockey commentary. And so he made some comments, and I'll play this off of...
talking to a
Global.
I said, I'm not going to run the Poppy thing anymore because what's the sense? I live in Mississauga.
Because he's a very nationalistic, patriotic Canadian. So he's every year at around this time, he's,
nobody wears a Poppy.
All over the Poppy thing.
Wait a minute. How about running it for the people that buy them? Now you go to the small cities and you know,
and here it comes.
The rows on rows. You people love you. They come here, whatever it is. You love our way of life. You love our milk and honey. At least you could pay a couple of bucks for poppies or something like that. These guys pay for your way of life that you enjoy in Canada. These guys paid the biggest.
So yeah, that's what Don said, and that's what people are finding so overly controversial. I don't know why. Because people are saying it's racist, it's xenophobic, it's this, it's that. The typical SJW fucking whiny bitch crowd who have nothing better to do with their time than nitpick things. First of all, this is how Don talks. He's a very in-your-face, gruff Canadian, says what's on his mind. And there's no real malice behind it. He's not saying, oh, you get out of our fucking country. No. And he's not saying anything racist. He's fully aware that a multitude of ethnic backgrounds who had immigrated to Canada over the years, served in the armed forces, and gave their lives and sacrificed so much to not only defend our country, but to defend people's basic human rights across the globe. And for people to come here and take advantage of all the good that Canada has to offer, which there is plenty of, and to turn around and say, I don't really want to support that or blah, blah. Sure. No, we're not looking to compel anybody to, have to wear the poppy. Of course not. Nobody wants that. Why? That's not what he's saying. He's saying just show a little bit of respect. Share our sense of patriotism, our thanks to those that came before us who fought, and some who gave their lives for us to be able to live in such a comfortable time in Canadian history, and just sort of, show your appreciation to those people who were white, black, Chinese, Indian, he's not, there are people who come here who aren't a quote unquote minority, which is just, we all know is just a dog whistle for white. We all know that there are white immigrants, there are yellow immigrants, red immigrants, blue immigrants. He's not talking to them based on their ethnic origins or their. Anyway, I'm getting a little too overheated. I liked Don. I'm not the biggest fan of the NHL anymore since Bettman took over, but you know, it is what it is. I don't think he should have been fired from Hockey Night in Canada for it, and I think people are like just taking this way too overboard. And of course, it's that overly loud minority, probably one or two people who tweeted out on Twitter, oh, Don Cherry is such a racist. Come on. Hey, Arms Killer, thanks for coming. Nice to see you here. Sorry, I'm starting off with a big rant because I saw this morning and I was just I was literally just yesterday I was just taken aback at how pervasive this cancel culture bullshit is just spreading, and the lengths at which it goes, because it's not like this is out of context for Don Cherry. He's done some other things that people were like, that's offensive. He called European and French Canadians soft for wearing visors in the past. Big deal. That's who he is. He's an opinions guy. He's not some scientist putting out this scientific report saying, oh, they're 25% softer for wearing visors. No. And yeah, it's sports. He's doing a little friendly jibbing and jiving when he takes things, when he takes pot shots at things like Russian players. One thing I was a little bit like, oh, come on, Don. He's spoken out against concussion spotters and players who suffer concussions. Calling. I don't remember the exact words he used, but he did call them a little soft or maybe a little bit of crybabies. When concussions are a real present danger for athletes, especially in high-driven games like hockey, where there's checking and boards and all that kind of what I thought is great stuff. Sports, especially something that's been developed like hockey, does have an element of violence in it. That's just the competitive nature. This isn't a no-touch game. It's a very anyway. But basically, yeah, Don likes to speak his mind on Hockey Night in Canada, and that was his platform. And I don't watch it anymore, but it's sad to see him go for something so stupid. On the lighter side of things, Fabricland, another Canadian institution, seems to be filing for bankruptcy after biggest customer fired from Coach's Corner. And of course, this is the Beaverton. This is a parody site, but I couldn't. I didn't want to talk about the Don Cherry thing without bringing this up because it's hilarious. Because again, he's a Canadian fixture. He's a Canadian icon. And for those who aren't familiar, because of, as you can see on screen, these magnificent suits that he always wears. And Fabricland is a national chain of fabric stores, which supply a lot of different types of fabrics, different patterns, and you can find some outlandish things like Mr. Cherry's pink couch suit over here. And yeah, because he's known for these outlandish suits, it's part of his thing, It's all in good fun. I don't know why people are always so super serial about what's going on here. But to turn it back to a little bit more seriousness with the Don Cherry thing, Sunaya Sapurji writes, a writer who said it's time to say goodbye to Don Cherry, surprised when he was actually fired. Because previously this writer had written some stories and, taken some pot shots at Cherry's verbiage, which again is your right. I believe in the right to free speech, and I think it should be enshrined here in Canada, as we've spoken to on the podcast. But just as much as I would support Don's right to make his comments, even though they're kind of mostly benign, he's just being very maybe a little overly patriotic in his words. But I support this quote unquote journalists' right to give their opinions. And he wrote an article. I think it's a woman. When she wrote the article, she never thought it would happen. She is the assistant managing editor for the Athletic Toronto, was writing in response to the hockey commentator's remarks on Saturday, accusing new immigrants in Toronto and Mississauga of not wearing poppies for Remembrance Day. Now, the reason why they mention Mississauga is because that's where Don lives. And yeah, exactly. Press X to doubt. Like, it's so stupid. You know, again, as they just quote what he said, you know, you people come here, you love our way of life, you love our milk and honey. At least you can pay a couple bucks for a poppy or something like that. You know, just show your appreciation for the people, for the veterans. And it's, you know, it's part of Canadian culture. And to me, when you immigrate to a place like Canada, you don't have to be all gung-ho, overly, you know, hyper nationalistic about, you know, your new life in Canada, but at least show a little bit of respect to the fact that us as Canadians hold something like this in high regard. You know, the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month, every year, we have a moment, 1 minute, 60 fucking seconds of silence just to show our appreciation to these people who fought and upheld the what just makes Canada great. And, you know, there are certain groups that demand that they get an entire month. Well, okay, you want a month? Maybe, you know, I'm not debating the merits of that, but I mean, come on. We're literally asking for 60 seconds. And with the poppy thing, when you sell a poppy, the Canadian Legion, who supports and helps our veterans, in so many ways, from financial aid in certain circumstances to medical help to how to access certain services, like it directly goes to supporting such a worthwhile charity. And I'm not a big war guy, you know, like I believe in the Canadian sort of belief that, you know, we should just protect people. We shouldn't be having wars of intervention, and we shouldn't be getting involved in conflicts with two other nations, but we can be on sort of standby and on watch so that war crimes don't happen, that we can help refugees and civilians get out of harm's way. And, you know, these remarks that Don Cherry made are not divisive. They're not that bad. We can get past stupid shit like this. We just need to, I believe, as a community, just say no to people who are overly sensitive. I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but like with things like Twitter and Facebook, you know, we've given everybody a voice, and evidently 99% of the people just want to bitch about stuff. And that's okay, because that's what I'm doing now. Not really bitching, but, you know, a lot of people just want to voice their opinions. And that's okay. I believe that that's a good thing. However, in the grander scheme of things, as far as beating the bad ideas with better ideas, it's just not working. It doesn't seem to be working because companies are so fast and to get on quote unquote damage control for anybody who might say something that one or two people like just take complete exception to. It's stupid. You know what, though? I love the way he dresses. I wouldn't be caught dead in most of those suits, but, you know, it's part of his brand. It's part of he's a hard edge, rough guy, and those suits kind of give him an air of, you know, yes, I'm just a man too. I you know, maybe sometimes I wear a little bit of flamboyant or different suits than everybody else because he's having fun with it. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, have fun with it. It's the NHL. It's not fucking, you know, heart surgery. It doesn't have to be 150% super serial all the time. Yeah, I also agree. You know, Don can be really funny. You know, part of his shtick is that he's a comedian. So, yeah, people do see nationalism as divisive, and it's a sad thing, because again, we're letting people take these words and notions and ideals and twist them so that it means what they think it means, not what it has always meant, what the people who use and cling to these idioms initially intended for them to mean. You know, what are you going to do? I know what I'm going to do. I've got this hilarious little story, and it comes from my own neck of the woods. It's from Toronto, and I can't seem to find the tab. What is going on here? Sorry, guys. I'm just a little bit new to the whole StreamYards thing. And unfortunately, since Jen is still not here, she can't coach me through it. She's usually the one that uses StreamYards. I'm more of an OBS kind of guy. Oh, here we go. This is awesome. I'm going to full screen this because this was just too much awesome.
Yo!
The guy...
This my unit sick!
Jumped onto the back of the bus.
This my unit on the bus top. Boom!
His backpack on.
He's a sicko. Watch him. Yo! What this guy?
I obviously don't know what's going on. This guy's freaking out. Who's filming it?
Gang, gang.
Guy is surfing the bus.
Gang, gang. Hey.
Kind of an idiot. Kind of fucking with everybody's, time on the bus. We'll
Talk about a free
get
bus
arrested.
ride, my nigga. Hey, gang,
Some people, right? Some people, but that's Toronto for you. Lots of crazies. Lots of crazies, from the crazy crackpots calling for the removal of Don Cherry, and a couple crazy crackpots who decide to parkour on top of a moving transit vehicle and ride it. And wish I had those kinds of balls, but no, I really don't want to get arrested or have any sort of real desperate legal troubles like that. Yeah, I imagine he just, jumped and pulled himself up and just, but at the beginning there, he's just sort of dangling. It's kind of just, whoa, my dude, what the hell are you doing? What is going on here? This is too funny. This is too funny. Oh my God. I don't like the way how StreamYards decides it's just going to share something when I want to prep something and just have it ready so that when I can talk about it, I can just bring it up. Hopefully, I'll get a little bit better at using StreamYards. But oh my God, my heart is shaking for that guy, because just watching that again, I watched it a few times today. It just kind of saw that on my Facebook feed, and my heart just started pounding. I'm like, oh my God, is he going to fall? What's going to happen? Oh my God. Sorry, a little dead air there because I was relighting my cigarette. It does not want to stay lit because I'm probably talking a little much. But hey, I kind of have to make up for the fact that my co-hosts are not here. So I will bring up the next article. And this one's a super unfortunate one. Toddler hit by air conditioner that fell from 8-story building, dies in hospital. 2.5-year-old girl was in her stroller and being pushed along, and a toddler struck by falling air conditioning unit on Monday afternoon in Toronto has died in hospital, police say. The 2.5-year-old girl was in a stroller being pushed by her mother when the unit plummeted from the 8-story building in suburban Scarborough, said Constable Caroline Declote on Tuesday. It is a Toronto community housing building. That's one of our public housing facilities that offered income-geared housing, public housing, sort of like the estate system in the UK, or I don't know if there is anything like that in the United States. And it's really unfortunate because this kind of shit could and should be prevented. I know that there are a lot of laws on the books for these types of air conditioning units. And when you have them, yeah, exactly, Arms Killer, like how this got to happen is just beyond me. However, being a resident of Toronto and knowing that I myself have called, 311, which is our sort of, it's an all-purpose line. It's, information for Toronto, but it's also somewhat of a snitch line when you have things like this going on. And in most cases, a lot of apartment units that have balconies, the they'll put their air conditioning unit in the balcony and make sure that it's secure. But should it fall, it'll fall on the balcony, no harm, no foul. But for the ones that are over sidewalks that have no balcony, have no safety system, like why? It's weird to me because I've called 311. I've called my landlords in places I've lived that things look a little rickety, and I don't really see any action taken. And it's unfortunate because if I go through the article, on its website, Toronto Community Housing warns tenants about the dangers posed by window AC units. Improperly installed window air conditioners are a serious safety hazard to you and your family and can fall onto other people. No shit. These are appliances. These aren't toys. TCH also says tenants must get permission to install the units, and they should be placed over balconies whenever possible, like I was just saying. You may be held liable for injuries or property damage from improperly installed window air conditioners. Which, if I scroll back up, speaking to reporters, Toronto Mayor John Tory called the toddler's death a terrible tragedy, which it is. My thoughts are with the family involved and the people in that building. I'm sure it's traumatizing for them. Tory said police and TCH will do a thorough investigation, which may have led to the air conditioning coming loose and plunging to the ground. However, there are currently no charges pending in relation to the incident. So, I mean, hopefully there's some form of legal recourse in this matter, because a 2.5-year-old girl is dead. Her mother is going to be traumatized for the rest of her life. And yes, it's going to be tough for the fact that the person accidentally killed someone. But you know what? You still have your life, sir or madam. And yet you've irrevocably affected a family through your own just casual negligence. So as I was saying, like if they need to get permission to install the units, why is the superintendent not inspecting these things? Not only that, but there's fucking snow outside. This happened the other day. There's fucking snow outside, and I can still see these AC units hooked up in people's windows. People are just being fucking lazy, irresponsible assholes. That's all I have to say about it. Like, boil it down to its core. These people are assholes. Not everybody's an asshole, but these people are assholes. There are things like these regulations in place to prevent just this, and shit like this just should not happen. And now I might be a little bit overly sensitive by what happened, but again, think of how this girl no longer feels and how her mother feels. Her mother was right there pushing the fucking stroller. Like, this is something out of a bad movie, not something that should be happening in a quote unquote first world, first class city like Toronto. That really, really, really gets my gears going. You know what? I think I'm just gonna have to have another sip of coffee, and I'm just in through the nose, out through the mouth. Take a breather. Have a sip of that coffee, and just move on. Let's go to something a little bit more fun to just sort of bring us back down, not have us be all a little too crazy on this. But I've got a really, for me, this is super exciting because Dan Aykroyd dropped some Ghostbusters news. This is from the Chive. And, there's been a lot of speculation on who all is going to be in the cast. And, we're in the information age, so everybody's got to know everything all the time. Me, for one, typically I like to be a little bit, I heard new Ghostbusters movie was coming up, for instance, and I'm just like, okay, cool. That's all I need to know. When it comes out, I'll have a go. But for now, we know that in his interview on the Greg Hill show, Aykroyd commented saying, I have really good feeling about this just because of the quality of stars we've got there. We've got some really terrific young actors, great story, great setting. It's going to be scary, really thought-provoking. It's going to be really very heartfelt. That sounds pretty good. I've always been a fan of Aykroyd. He's one of the comedic geniuses that I grew up admiring and aspiring to one day be, a comedic individual. Dan, Dan, Bill motherfucking Murray is confirmed to be returning. To, yes, reprise his role as Dr. Venkman. Not just a cameo, but he will play an older Venkman. So already we're kind of getting a feeling that this is going to be a sort of passing the torch moment for the old cast, because Ernie motherfucking Hudson. Yeah. I'm so hyped to hear that he signed on. So amazing. Of course, we got to have the lovely, forever beautiful Sigourney Weaver. She's like 65, but she's still gorgeous in my mind. And oh my God. We also have Janine, Miss Ann Potts. I had such a crush on her when I was a kid because she was such a funny, witty, sarcastic, kind of, grab him by the balls, kind of tough female character. Unfortunately, Ricky Moranis hasn't commented yet on whether or not he's going to be in the sequel. Of course, he played Eugene, a little less of a mainstay character, but still kind of cool. And let me see, is Jen back yet? Jen is not back yet. Oh, well, let's keep it rolling. And of course, the legendary Harold Ramis will not be returning because, of course, he passed away in 2014. As far as the new players, we've got Finn Wolfhard, which he's from Stranger Things. I'm not a personal huge fan of the show. I've seen most of the first season and a little bit of the second season and watched the third season. I gave it a good, but for me, the whole just rely on the nostalgia part, just, I don't know, guys, just not my thing. Yeah, you got to give it to those Second City alums there. But of course, Paul Rudd, who is a new favorite of mine, for many of his performances. Oh God, I'm having a brain fart. But one of my favorite shows, or films, sorry. Oh, I Love You, Man, with Jason Sudeikis, I want to say was his name. He played Marshall on How I Met Your Mother. Oh my God, one of the best comedies of our time. Hilarious. Of course, he's Ant-Man. He's had a lot of really fun roles that has even brightened up some films that I wasn't too much of a fan of. So hopefully he'll be part of the cast who takes the torch, and he's on that same kind of level of comedy as those Second City alums. They're very witty, dry, and do I see a Jen? Maybe, possibly, maybe. And of course, the sequel is being directed by Jason Reitman, the son of Ivan Reitman, who directed the original 1984 Ghostbusters. And he's got a couple of good movies under his belt. Love It or Hate It. He wrote and directed Thank You for Smoking. I thought was a brilliant film. A little bit more on the less entertainment side of filmmaking, more on the satirical commentaries on real life. Still, though, very, very fantastic film. He's also directed Juno, which was a pretty good film. Again, in a more serious kind of matter with a little bit of dry humor mixed in there. He's done some other filmmaking credits, but I'm not too familiar with. But he seems like a good choice. Obviously, he knows what was going on when his dad made these movies, because he's probably heard it throughout his entire life. And this quote here from Jason to Jason's words to his father: "You're the greatest storyteller I know, and I'm the luckiest son on earth. I feel so intimidated making this film, but making it for all of you guys. But most of all, I'm making it for you, and I love you." And that is That's great. That's the proper way I think that Jason should be approaching this film, is to make it for the cast, for the fans, as opposed to just making it for money. Because that, like, if you want to continue in this age of constantly making sequels and turning into things into franchises, seems like a good choice. So I don't want to have my expectations too high, but I'm also being a little bit more positive on this than, say, something like Star Wars, because things, the pieces are looking like they're going to fall into place. I wish I was going into this a little bit more blind, but who knows? Looks like it's going to be good. Sorry, I really hate having to drink my coffee and not have one of my by myself when I don't have one of my teammates here to allow me to have a sip of coffee in between my little speeches. Yeah, Paul Rudd. Oh, Jen's here. Let's get her up on this bitch. Jen. The Snow Mexicans are coming together. Again, apologies for the break, dead air. I just had to tab out and make sure she had the right stuff coming in, the right link. Hello. It's okay. Welcome. How was your little adventure?
So it was good. So in the middle of, the end of the dinner, my dad's like, you know what? I think I remember this place having a candy shop. I'm just going to go check out this candy shop. And my mom's like, you're really going to buy candy? And my dad's this guy who's been on this 30-year-old up and down diet bender. So when he starts talking candy, you're just like, what kind of candy are you getting? And the guy doesn't have a sweet tooth to begin with. So usually that means it's maybe the weird candy place that has something gross that he likes, which sounds mean, but I'm not being wrong.
They come from a different time with different candy, and yeah, I can understand that. Because we grew up in a time where all these hyper refined sugar candies came out, and it's a completely different ballgame. Yeah.
I don't hate everything that he likes, but so the thing is he's pretty much just lying to my mom because he decided that there was this figurine that he wanted to buy her. Because this year is pretty much my parents' year of I'll probably retell this story during the stream, but this year has been my parents' year of travel because they've both been retired for, I'd say, about 8 years now. And initially they were fine with their arrangement because they had a place out in BC that they were using as, it was their retirement home. They would go out there, play little house on the prairie for a couple months of the year and then come back. And this lake that they're on, the Kootenay Lake, for some odd reason, some scientists decided to fix the lake by adding a new bottom feeder to it. And it's one of those things where you're like, did you speak to any specialists about what you were planning to do before you did it? Because he killed off, it's probably going to be about 20 to 30 years before they reclaim that lake from the damages done from it. So there's no longer any fishing out there. And my dad and my mom are just like, well, the maintenance is high and it's BC. So we don't know what's going on with the country. And it's not necessarily the splitting of the country speaking so much as just Notley stirred up a lot of grief between our provinces. The way she went about it with both the oil and the gas and the oil sands and getting her pipelines done, a lot of her staff were environmental terrorists, I'd say. Borderline.
Right. Yeah.
Short of legally
taking their protest to the point of activism, overly activistic, not within the confines of what we allow as freedom of expression and right to assembly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of that grief comes from that. And then Notley was like, well, if you're not going to take our oil, we're just going to not take your wine. And it was just one of those things where like all of Alberta and all BC are just looking at each other, looking at her and going like, what the hell does that have to do with anything? Like, I understand you want to block trade, but like, if you're going to do it, don't attack people who aren't the issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are the great people doing to you? Like, they actually need your gas. Actually, they run farms. They need our gas.
Which then feeds people. Yeah.
You know, it's Notley was just, she's one of those people that I think in the back of her mind genuinely believes she's trying to save people, but she's such a communist kook that nothing she does is actually going to help. She just, you know, and I do genuinely believe that in her head, she thinks she's saving people, but she's not. She's just stupid.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the MO of communist socialists of the NDP is, well, mommy and daddy government knows better than you, so let us, you know. To me, I mean, it just sounds like infantile bickering.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, it's frustrating.
Yeah, it really is, you know. But it's just one of those things where like your government does stuff and people get dragged in, and then of course there's kooks in every province. Like, I'm not saying that there weren't Albertans that weren't giving BC people shit, and there weren't BC people giving Albertan shit. But like, it's one of those things where you know that there are people stirring up the pot.
Yeah, and you would expect our elected officials to act to a higher standard than Joe Blow on the street or with a YouTube channel, you know, throwing the slings and arrows, like taking jabs at people. But I mean, now more than ever, we need to be coming together in finding solutions, not just deriding one another, regardless of the party leanings, especially what's going on in Western Canada. It's like, I guess people want to try to capitalize on this divisiveness because they see how profitable it can be to our neighbors down south. Like, a lot of people are profiting off of that, and I just don't like it.
You know, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of not just the US, but like outside interests as well. But like a lot of it is just and I'll say as a centrist, like, I'd say both sides can be very pig-headed on it.
Yeah, definitely.
But we know which side is the most pig-headed at the moment. And it's just one of those things, something we have to figure out what it is that we need to do to break that camel's back, you know? And I don't mean to be violent in it. I'm just saying, like, we need to do something to just break the wall that they have that's making it so difficult to come clear with what we're trying to say to them. Because, like, you know, even to the point with the Don Cherry thing, like, all that did was just restart everything all over again. Yep. It's not as bad. It's definitely not as bad, but it just restarted everything from what happened last month. You know, I'm just staying away from it mostly this time because, like, I don't have the love for Don Cherry that a lot of people do. Like, I love that our sport is hockey, but I don't really give two shits about the game. I'm going to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the first stories I covered, and I mean, I don't watch hockey anymore. I love the sport. I will more than happy go down to like a Toronto Marlies game or AAA League because those kids play hockey. Yeah. They're trying to prove themselves. They're playing at their best most of the time because they gotta make a name for themselves. So I've stayed away from the NHL, but to me, Don's always been, you know, kind of a Canadian fixture, a Canadian icon of sorts. Yeah. You know, his suits are just part of his brand, part of his thing. And part of his brand is that he's an outspoken, says what's on his mind kind of thing. And I covered the comments, and his comments weren't that bad. No, especially considering the fact that, you know, we know that there were so many different diverse people who fought for Canada, who are veterans, who were veterans, who gave their lives for the country. And there are plenty of, as we all know, it's a dog whistle to say, you know, immigrants, you know, non-white people, which it's not. It's white people. It's black people. It's people from all different. We don't care where you come from. We care that you come here and that you at least respect our customs.
Yeah, and that actually pisses me off. Like the fact that when you say immigrant automatically means people of color, and yes, they are included.
Yeah,
they are included,
but it's all people.
But it's all people. It's like, do you know how many people from Europe weren't even a part of that war? Lots of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just as many were in part, yes, yeah, absolutely. But just as many of them weren't a part of that war. So yes, for some of them, they're just like, I don't really give a shit for this war. But at the same time, though, they're still living in a place that sacrificed a lot so that they could have a good home. So asking, I mean, maybe $2 is too much for some people moving here. Like I can understand if it was just an issue of like, I don't have the money to spend on it.
Oh, for a poppy, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, he said, buy a poppy or something. And I mean, in cases like this, people like to nitpick and, focus on one thing. But like, one way to do it is to, and I covered this already, the poppies are run by the Legion, who, that's a charity. So he's saying, buy a poppy, show your respect by wearing the poppy, or do something. As much as, on your Twitter or what have you, say, thank you for your service, or even just in your mind saying thank you to the people who came before you. That's the or something. And Don is not a racist. Come on.
He's mostly he's not a diplomat. He's never been a diplomat. He's never ever played a character on TV that encouraged the idea that he was a diplomat.
No, he's outspoken.
He's an outspoken, regular Joe kind of guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
And that's kind of why I love him, for his character, for his brand, what he's built up. I don't always agree with him. And, like I said, I don't watch him anymore. But, I believe he should have the freedom to make this decision and to say what he says. It's not like... CBC or Hockey Night in Canada, Global News, whoever his employers are new to this kind of verbiage from him.
Yeah, it's not the first time he's had a controversy. Like, I swear it's like once a year he says something inappropriate.
I'm borderline inappropriate. Yeah, and
assuming you even hear about it.
One or two assholes are just like, I was offended. Well, you know what? We live in a world where you can turn it off. You don't have to watch.
Exactly.
Coach's Corner happens during the intermission. You can get up and go get yourself another beer or go to the bathroom. You don't have to watch Don Cherry. And, yes, I also support their rights to want to get rid of him, but I can disagree with why they're getting rid of him. So, yeah. I did have something a little funny that I shared earlier. It is from the Beaverton. You're familiar with the Beaverton, and I'll just read you the story. Was Fabricland files for bankruptcy after biggest customer fired from Coach's Corner, which is funny because his suits, the types of fabrics that you can find at Fabricland, is entertaining. It's funny. Just sort of lighten the mood after something so serious, and I kind of just went right off on some of these people because they're just idiots. They really are just idiots.
You know what would be amazing? Because it looks like they're doing it to Jeffrey Goldberg at the moment too. Because he's just like, I don't really understand what's going on with the Woody Allen thing, but he'd rather wait until more proof comes out before he's gonna, And I'm like, fair enough. I mean, if you've talked to the guy, you think you knew the guy, you kind of want to know if what they're saying is true or not.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you should do if you're a really good friend. I mean, if he did it, beat the shit out of the guy, friend or not. If you made a mistake, then I'm your friend because I'm beating the shit out of you for it. But you're still supposed to be loyal to your friend first.
Yeah.
And they're just pushing everybody. They're pushing everybody that they have that's a center, really, because I wouldn't see, because I wouldn't see Jeff Goldberg as being anywhere near our side. But the more they push him, I'm like, you know what? I'll take him. He's great. I liked him in the movies. I didn't think he, as a person I thought he was pretty smart as a person. I wouldn't call him a genius, but yeah, I'll take anyone that you want to throw away, because at this point, you're just burning more bridges from what I see from that corner of the world. You know, at some point they're going to get really lonely.
Well, yeah, I mean, as many people have said, they're eating themselves. They're eating their own side. They're ostracizing people who once were on their side and supported some of their ideas. And just because they might have a difference of opinion and a different perspective on things, they alienate and they consume them. It's, what are you doing? Like, I'm a liberal. Me myself, I'm a left-leaning type of centrist. I look at people further to the left of me, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, maybe the national election didn't exactly go. It didn't, lose the Liberal Party the election, but you have people like me who were lifetime Liberal voters for the most part, pushed away completely to the point where I voted for different parties because they're going insane. Sorry, no, they're already insane. It's just a matter of who they keep pushing away. And just looking at the demographics of the vote, you can see that the most of Canada doesn't agree with this bullshit. Most people in general, US, UK, Australia, most people don't agree with this shit. It's just because there's a few wackos who are speaking loud and proud and get the media coverage and the commentator coverage for it. They're getting the exposure. They're getting a little bit of ground. And I don't understand why well, actually, I kind of do understand, but the war of ideas, we're winning on the ideas aspect of it, rational people. And when I say we, but we're losing because of tech censorship. And that's all there is. That's all there is to it. The exposure and the mainstream media, the exposure that the mainstream media and tech is allowing, it's just not having the same voice. Even though there's 1,000 people saying one thing and 5 people saying another, those 5 people are having a louder voice because they're not being censored.
Well, and it's very clear what's going on too on the general basis that, like, let's make the example Antifa. So we already know that for the one example that they have of the right genuinely being violent, maybe 2, maybe 3, we already know that they're already like 10 times that on a regular basis. And the fact is that, like, I'm not advocating for violence. I'd rather not get to that point. But the truth of the matter is if we'd started beating up people in the beginning, if our side had just been like, you know what, we see where the violence is coming from and we've had enough. And yes, they would go to jail for it. If they'd actually done that in the first place, I think a lot of it would have slowed down a hell of a lot.
Yeah, there would have been, putting a little bit of fear on the table but I'm thankful at this point. Again, I say our side, meaning, people who are rational, who would adhere to Western values, whether or not you're left or right or centrist. Just so hard to grasp.
Like, that's why I hate even bringing that up. It's just the truth of it is just like, if a couple of those big dudes just like walloped on them back, I'm just saying a lot of those little pukes wouldn't have the balls that they do. The reason they have the balls that they do is because they know they're.
I'm worried about the media spin because look at what happens with Antifa in places like Portland, and they are the ones getting all the good spin through the MSM, through people like David Pakman. They're getting the good, and TYT. They're getting the good spin, and then people who actually make valid, cogent points, they're not really getting their voices heard. And like you said, it's very evident because someone like Trudeau, with like the scandals, financial scandals that they're trying to get through, we're trying to expose, blackface, that's okay for certain people as long as you have the right ideas. But Don Cherry saying, hey, be thankful that you live in a fucking country that other people have died and bled for. That's taboo. That's wrong. That's dismissal worthy. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people?
That just made me, I mean...
You're not wrong, Armskilla, but I know plenty of dudes who would be like, good dudes, like good, rational, run-of-the-mill dudes who would, not only find Emma Watson attractive, but be able to date her. It's like my thing with like the Charlize Theron thing is that these women, because of how much money they make and the convictions that they hold in the social political sphere of their hyper feminist opinions, that they ostracize and look down on your run-of-the-mill person. They want someone who's their equal in screen and television and in the media limelight, but they also want that person to kowtow to their outlook on things and not be a PR nightmare for them. So they're the ones putting up these walls, not men who would date them.
Can you do me a favor and just link
Sure.
your stream so I can share it?
Oh, yes, of course. I will copy and I will put that in our Discord chat.
Perfect. All right. Sorry, I meant to do that sooner, and it was just like
That's okay. I know you were probably rushing to get home, and I did want to start at 3 as promised because I already pushed it back half an hour.
Yeah.
And just shoot the shit with whoever showed up, cover some stories. There was another downer of a story that I shared that I'm not going to really bring back up and go through, but in Toronto yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, an air conditioner fell out of Toronto Public Housing, one of their units from 8 stories up, and killed a 2.5-year-old girl. And it's sad, and it's one of those things that shouldn't be allowed to happen, that somebody somewhere was being a selfish asshole and just not caring to the repercussions of their actions. In Toronto, specifically in Toronto Public Housing, you have to get permission to put these ACUs into the window. And I made the comment, the observation, like, where was the superintendent to examine whether or not it was secure once they got permission for it, which I think should be a thing. Especially if it's out over an open street like that, especially if it's out and over, if it's over a balcony or somewhere less where there's no human foot traffic, like a sidewalk or something. Sure, maybe be a little bit, you can be a little bit more lax with the rules and not be a complete N-word over it. Nazi, not the other one. But just be a little bit more cognizant. These are heavy appliances. These aren't fucking toys, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, for us, we don't, I mean, we can get the wall ones, but for us, we don't really have the humidity that you guys do. We have more of a dry heat. So I find like it's rare to see people with the big box ones. Most people have like it's like an indoor unit that you just connect to the outside with a
you put it in the window and everything. We have one of those for our apartment. Yeah. Mostly because I didn't want to have the responsibility or give the amount of attention I needed to have something like that hang out the window. And every so often check it. But again, Jen, it's November. We literally have fucking the last few days of snow out there. Why is the ACU still in there? Again, it's being a lazy, entitled asshole and not caring.
Yep.
So anyway. So back to the Alberta thing. I have a not quick video. It's 8 minutes long. I don't want to play the whole thing, but just to listen to a little bit of what Jason Kenney said about Alberta and some of the ideas that we were talking about. So I'll just give that a little play, and we can talk while we...
Fair deal now for Alberta within Canada.
But fair deal.
One that respects the Constitution and gets Ottawa out of our way.
Again, like we were talking about respecting the Constitution that's already there, but...
Grow our economy, create jobs, get people back to work, and generate an oversized contribution to Canada as well. As I said earlier, our government is prepared to deploy every legal, economic, and constitutional tool at our disposal to maximize our leverage and to win a fair deal for Alberta.
And that's kind of like what we were saying before, and using the system we have in place to, as he says, win a fair deal for Alberta. He goes on to talk about, I'm getting a phone call. You can fuck off because I'm live right now. He goes into talking about things like we've talked about, the formation of Alberta Provincial Police, trying to get a little bit more say in Alberta's rights, a little bit more autonomy, not so much autonomy that they'd get separation status or their own little bubble, but autonomy on the level of like Ontario and Quebec have historically have on our national stage. And like as I said, he goes on a little bit more about it, and I liked what he had to say.
Okay, I'll have to you'll have to share the video with me, and I'll take a look.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I am trying to follow him. It's just I kind of slacked the last 3 days.
That's fair. That's fair. And I mean, up until the election, he's kind of been a little wishy. The federal election, he's been a little wishy-washy on his stance and what he wants to see moving forward for his province.
Yeah.
So it's to be excuse me.
But I did mention before that he's been hammered the last month. Like, I don't doubt that everywhere he's been hearing the howling of the angry Albertans, and
as well as the far leftists who like to call him a Nazi, bigot, fascist, blah 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 blah. A lot more of the same that we hear from other conservative or quote unquote right leaning political figures. Yeah, it's nothing new.
Yeah. So like I figured the same thing. I was just like, okay, well, let's give the guy at least some time. I am angry at him though that it took him that long to just put his foot down. But at the same time, I understand. Like, I don't I'm not a politician. I don't understand everything that he's doing right now, and I do understand that it's complicated. So I want to put some more faith in him. And like I said, I don't necessarily like the Wexit movement at this point. Like, I do and I don't. I like that they have an outlet where they can express what's making them pissed off, because then, you know what? People like Jason Kenney can send someone in to listen to hear what it is that they're saying, or I can post a link and share the stream so people can see what it is that they're saying. I do appreciate the outlet for the anger, because I don't think they've had that really, I think they've needed more people talking to them about what's going on, across Canada. And I told my mom about it. I told my dad about it. I told him about the stream that we're doing, and how we're covering some of our own politics to try to give other people an idea of what we're saying, and how Trudeau got elected and stuff like that. But I want to keep it friendly, and I'd like to keep Canada as a whole, because
we're stronger together.
We are stronger together, and eventually we can work things out better with the US too. But I think we got to do that with our own. And let's be real, we're probably more rational in conversations together than the US, because the US is like,
I mean, we have been historically too, because most Canadians do have that sense of national pride. If people want to call it nationalism or whatever, it's not necessarily a bad word, but we have our pride in Canada. We have been a global player, and we don't want to take steps backwards. We want to keep going forward, and we're just stronger together. Why start attacking that as a system of just start like I'm having like, why expose our own chinks in our armor, so to speak? Why give people more to divide us, especially with what's going on and what has been going on with outside interests like China? Let's we don't always have to agree, but let's agree to disagree on things as opposed to destroy our country's unity.
Yeah.
Like, let's stay together and disagree on things. Let's not disagree on things and walk away from the proverbial table. That's just stupid. Like, come on.
Yeah, like I said, it was just like, for the last month, it's just been me trying to do right by my my grandfather, you know, in the back of my mind, that's a lot of what I'm doing. It's just like, I want to set things up for the future, you know. And even when I talk about money, let's be real, I'm not even talking about my money. I'm talking about the provincial money. I'm talking about money in the pockets of like my neighbors who need it, you know, like,
Yeah.
that's where I come from with it, you know. But I think we'll be fine. You know, we gotta fight the man, and we all know who the man is. And I don't think it's going to be a tough fight. It's just he's got some creepers in behind him that are making it more difficult.
Yeah, like any sort of movement. And yeah, being hammered from both sides is just not good. I think that the people who would be backing Alberta and want to do right by Alberta should really just sort of keep their mouths a little shut and let their representatives deal with it, and not just try to hijack it and make that side look like the insane people who are, again, like we were saying, eating each other on the left. Because obviously, yeah, he's conservative and there's that side of things, but and it does seem to be leaning more conservative because of the way that the Liberal government has been treating Alberta the last 2 terms. So hopefully we'll see some good things come out of this, and hopefully just people like you and me and everybody else talking about it will get some of that discussion out there and let cooler heads prevail.
Yep.
I was just going to shift it over, like on the lighter side of things. In Calgary, oh, I don't have the screen up. I'm so bad. In Calgary, it was move-in day in a village of tiny homes for homeless veterans, which, you know,
nice.
Again, relating to the poppy thing we were talking about. These tiny homes, and this isn't exactly the story I had before. There we go. As you can see in the picture, they're, you know, just smaller units, but it gets these homeless guys off the streets, out of shelters. They're fairly large communities of these little single units to give back to these people what they haven't, for whatever reason, be able to obtain for themselves since they came back from active service. And, you know, who can disagree with that? That's just such a great thing to be happening. And on the heels of the Don Cherry thing, like, this is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Showing people, this is taking it to, another, you know, nth degree, but it is literally showing how we should be prideful of the people who have served for this country. And that sort of notion,
well, you know, it's
been degrading in Western society, and it just,
well, it's like do you remember, you know, this is probably closer to the 9/11 time zone, but, you know, honestly, not that much longer afterwards. I remember there was this huge thing that we did where every time we would bring a soldier home from war after Afghanistan, and we would bring them home, and the whole trip across like Canada, you know, and everyone's on the bridge showing their respects.
Yeah. Oh, we have a guest. We have a special guest.
Do we have a special guest?
Don't call me special. That's just insulting. Come on.
But you'll be proud
You're
of
special
me.
to me.
You'll be proud of me, though, because like I worked really hard to get Bear out of my head. Because when I think Bear, I think of Cuddly Alex. You know,
Bear.
Cuddly.
No, this is Canada. You can't just scream Bear. That's like yelling fire in a crowded theater. Jen.
Oh my God, it's a grizzly
I'm like
bear.
looking over my shoulder, going, where?
But I worked so hard to get it out because I was like, you know, just because I have affection for the stuff you used to do doesn't mean that the affection wasn't directed at you. And I was like, okay, well, I worked it out.
Jen, you ridiculously over the top happy bastard. Just roar for me quickly. There we go. Now
she didn't get a chance to do it because she was late for the stream. But
it was my mom's birthday dinner, so.
Oh, it's no excuse, though, is it? I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get a hold of you for a while because like stuff was happening and I don't know how to internet, and I was like, who do I know that's free? But you've got a job and a life, and I was like, oh God. Okay. So I was like,
I wasn't able to watch your stream live, but I rewatched it afterwards. It's so I'm so happy for you that you're loving this job, dude, because like
Mhm. Mhm.
you can actually affect some good, and I know that that's who you are as an individual, and it's really good to hear that somebody somewhere is in a job where they love it and it reflects them as an individual. So I'm really happy to hear that you're getting on really well there.
Yeah, thanks, man. As I said on the stream, it's as if God himself reached down from the heavens and said, "Have a job," you know.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, and I hope it continues to work out.
And so, how are you finding adjusting to the 4 on, 4 off kind of thing?
I'm getting there.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, getting there. You know, like what my situation was prior to getting the job. You know, like unemployed for pretty much 5 years, with a broken sleep pattern and being a stay-at-home dad and that. So, like when term time came around, you know, I'd be almost up all night every night. You know. And then asleep during the day and that kind of stuff, along with my kids, I guess, and just readjusting to it. And it's not just a case of readjusting to it, though. It's getting used to the things like taking my medication, for example. Like if I have any hope of sleeping on the first, like before the first night shift, I can't take my ADHD pills in the morning. And I take them in the evening. The switching between the both can be a little bit. It takes a little bit of a toll, but that's fine. You know, I'm getting there.
Yeah, just a little bit of adjustment to the new scheduling.
Yeah, it's just a case of remembering and stuff, and just taking it easy where I can. You know, so
good stuff.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this a couple times now. Once when I was by myself, and once when Jen arrived, and now that you've arrived. Do you know who Don Cherry is?
Don Cherry, the name rings a bell.
He's a Canadian icon. He's a Canadian hockey broadcaster, not broadcaster, but commentator. And he made some controversial remarks. I say that very sarcastically.
What did he
surrounding
say?
Veterans Day. And our Veterans Day is the 11th hour on the 11th day of
Armistice
the 11th
Day.
month. Yeah, your Armistice Day. And you may be aware that we wear poppies to show our not only show our pride and our respect to the fallen heroes and those who have served, but to it's also a charity that helps put a couple extra bucks each year into our legions.
Yeah,
and so he
that's
basically
exactly how it is in the UK, mate. That's exactly how it is in the UK.
We take a lot after you guys. And he basically just said that some newcomers he's noticed are a little adverse to showing their respect, and that if you buy a poppy or do something else, then you're showing some of that Canadian culture and respecting our customs. But he,
sorry, mate. Sorry, just give us a second.
All good. It was a little impromptu in inviting Alex. I'm glad he's here, but
there we go. I'm back. Naturally, it would be my son pestering me. He can go pester his mother.
Alfie takes after his parents.
Yeah, he does. If Vanilla Bear's streaming, I constantly annoy her. So, yeah, please continue.
It's a family affair.
Well, this point is revenge, but that's okay.
Basically just something that I know that you're on about is just having pride in your veterans and not disrespecting them was basically what he was saying. And, the vocal minority saying, "Oh, that's racist," with their dog whistle of immigrant means non-white people. And
most of our immigrants are white.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a matter of, and he's a very outspoken, outlandish kind of figure that, speaks his mind, and sometimes he gets in trouble for things that he says. But at the end of the day, they're not really offensive. It's just commentary and very verbose, and sometimes maybe he can change the way that he says things, but as somebody who appreciates what he does, I don't think he should have, and especially with the subject matter of respecting our veterans. Why is that such a bad thing?
Well, it's the typical kind of narrative of many on the far left. I know Canada has quite a strong far left presence in your country.
Yeah.
as there is in the UK. Like, I'm not going to say that we're any fucking better, because we're not.
Yeah.
We've had this issue with Jeremy Corbyn. He often gets called out for this kind of behavior, and he won't just do it for like disrespect veterans. He'll also do it in front of the Queen, and he won't stand for the Queen. Which I guess is, at the end of the day, is his freedom of expression to do so.
Sure.
It's just a bit,
But it's disrespectful.
It is disrespectful. It's very disrespectful. And do you want that kind of person? I suppose it's different with Corbyn, because the man's, he has a level of power, but the potential to become a prime minister. Do you really want someone like that who won't stand for the Queen, but will stand for the red anthem? Do you want, like, and stand for the red flag? Do you want that man, whose dubious behavior with terrorists? Use that as a fucking understatement, I think.
Well, I mean, maybe he should become a Canadian citizen and run for our parliament, because we like to elect people like that to our highest offices.
Well, indeed.
Does he have a history of blackface?
Because I think we got you beat on that one.
Possibly. You don't know with Corbyn. You never know with that guy. But
or would that be Asian face with him? Because I believe it's Asian face at this point.
I will defer to history, recent history, on the sort of outside forces, if you will, disrespecting veterans. You know how the EDL was formed, right? Tommy Robinson and all that. You know how that came about.
Yeah, vaguely. Yeah.
Your soldiers returning home, being spat at and shouted at by Muslims on the street.
Yeah.
And when Tommy and his mates saw that, that's when the street protest group was formed.
Yeah. They literally took to the streets and said, "No, you can't do this."
Yeah. Now, I guess it's people's freedom of expression to go and protest soldiers returning home, but it is incredibly disrespectful, and it's just, you're just being a dick. Like if you don't want to do it, then fine, stay at fucking home, dude. Like, the soldiers go to war, they fight for the country, they come back. It's a nice thing to have a parade for them.
And whether or not whatever conflict they may or may not have been involved in, they're ordered to do this. They, as an individual, don't have the choice in this matter. And when they're coming home, it's that certain level of respect to say, welcome home. And, thank you and those who came before you in the armed services to help defend and establish this country that we take for granted every day.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's that aspect as well. Looking at it as respecting the armed forces that continue to defend and fight for the country over a longer period of time, that kind of allowed for you to move here in the fucking first place.
And give you the freedom to have an enjoyable life.
I always kind of when I think about this kind of thing, I always think about the movies and seeing films about Vietnam and soldiers being called baby killers and that kind of stuff, which I think is very fucking unfair. Soldiers join the military. A lot of people join the military not to kill people, but to better themselves.
Yeah.
I did. I know
I
that
did
much.
too. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a good way to educate yourself, like in various ways.
Yeah, you experience, travel, a lot of people, I remember being a very naive 16, 17-year-old being told, oh, you'll travel the world, you'll be all right, you'll have a good time. They didn't tell me about certain other fucking aspects.
Yeah, like I initially joined Air Cadets to join the Royal Canadian Air Force because I wanted to fly planes. I wanted to, better myself on a physical level, learn discipline and everything. And unfortunately, I was at that age, I was a little too undisciplined because I clocked my CO and was discharged. But yeah, I did it. I did it at the root cause. Yeah, I know it was a bad time in my life, but in growing up and having friends who did serve, and just simply in growing up and being more wise of the world, I realized what I did was wrong. And I don't necessarily regret it because he was being a little bit personal, like making fun of me because I was my last name. I'm very Jewish last name, even though I'm not like a practicing Jew. Made fun of, the size of my nose, things like that, and that just kind of pushed me over the edge. So, but yeah, in growing up, I just developed more of a respect for things like that, and I would never do that again should I have the knowledge I have now, which hindsight's 2020.
Mate, who do you think you're talking to? I was
I know.
sent to military prison.
Oh, you were? I didn't know about you, but
Yeah, for being a naughty boy and not having the discipline I needed to not attack another senior officer.
yeah.
And I was put in 7 days solitary confinement in the Falklands, and then flown home on an 18-hour flight to serve a further 21 days in Colchester. It's not a prison, and it's also is a prison. It's kind of like basic training all over again, but it's a lot fucking stricter. And you can't leave. Otherwise you'll go to civilian prison. But
yeah, I mean, if you do something wrong, you're gonna have to pay your dues, and sometimes.
Exactly.
But thankful that these kinds of institutions have those types of systems to do that, because they do have to weed out the people that might not be entirely suited, in my case, for that kind of service.
Which is why I never really agreed with national service. Well, military national service anyway. Because bearing in mind, just to make things clear, there's two types of national service. There's I don't know whether you were ever a fan of Crowton T. He made a video talking about national service because Germany has it. And,
he has a lot of good videos. I mean, despite the shit he went into, I don't discount what he did. So
no, I don't disagree with what he was trying to do either. I think he was shit on and slung around like a maniac. People attacked him to destroy him, effectively to stop him from breaking their narrative, I suppose. But he did a video in which he spoke about himself and his brother, and when they both became of age, they both decided on what they wanted to do. And his brother was a naughty little bastard, apparently, from what Kraut was saying. And Kraut didn't want to go in the military, so he went into the civilian side of things and became a carer. And his brother went into the military. It was the best thing for him. That said, I've seen Bad Lads Army, all like 3 seasons of it. By the way, if you haven't watched that, it's a really fucking good show. These naughty little shits in the UK get signed up to basically the old school World War I, World War II tier army training.
Ooh.
Yeah, and they have all these ex-soldiers who basically dress up as olden day instructors. And they are ex-army. They've served, they're retired and stuff, and they beast the shit out of them. It's kind of like a brat camp, it's kind of like that. But a lot of these lads and stuff were criminals, had criminal records and stuff, and some of them excelled. Some of them
sure. Sometimes it works for kids like that, yeah,
and sometimes it doesn't. And it had it been back in the day and they had that attitude, they probably would have been fucking shot.
Yeah,
but I don't think military service is for everyone. I mean, I did 5 years and it wasn't for me in the end.
Yeah.
It really wasn't for me in the end. I don't agree with kind of trying to force people into that kind of service, but there are arguments for the benefit. But back to the original topic at hand about this idea of disrespect. I'm of a mind of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, as you know.
Sure, yeah.
I think that's his right to stand up and mention that and be pro-military, just as I am. He probably it's his choice to do it. I mean, I personally just wouldn't have been asked, unless there are people going out blatantly, attacking soldiers, that kind of thing. I wouldn't be too asked about them not getting involved in, these kind of things. I mean, just let them fucking get on with it.
I think it wasn't just that. I mean, his was just kind of the cap of the whole thing. Because before that, earlier this week, we'd had an issue with a couple of girls being suspended for school for a similar situation.
Yeah,
and it also had to do with
that's
politics. Different. What happened is you know how you guys had those rainbow poppies?
I heard about it. Jen, you have to realize that I have
yeah.
not been in
Yeah.
the loop recently.
Yeah. So what basically happened, and I can say because I actually saw the initial tweet because I followed the girl's uncle, surprisingly enough, because I joined the Wexit movement as
Oh, interesting.
But so what happened is it is partially her fault, but at the same time, not really. So what happened was this school it's actually in Saskatchewan. For some reason, they keep saying Manitoba, but it's Saskatchewan. But what happened was the school was going to push these rainbow poppies on the students, and she was of the mind that that's kind of disrespectful to the whole idea, because the whole idea with the poppies is it has to do with both the poem and it has to do with what happened. Like, those poppies grew amongst the bodies that were buried in the soil.
It's the only thing that would grow in no man's land. That's why we use them.
And it represents, like, the red represents the blood that was given.
Yeah, there's a lot of symbolism behind it, but the fact of the matter is that it's iconic how it is.
Yeah. She just basically explained that in that letter, and she was just like, listen, no disrespect to the gay community. She was just like, this poppy does represent you. It represents everybody. It represents the vets. That's what it represents. And we don't need to change the color of the poppy to do that. The whole image is already there. And she didn't word it that well. Like, I mean, she had misspelling errors, but
it's also a trademark from the Legion.
And that's basically what she said. And so they suspended her and her friend for about, I'd say it was
until
about
today.
Yeah, it was a week.
It was until the day after Veterans Day, or Remembrance Day.
For hate speech. And the thing is like, they did interviews around the school, and all the kids were like, none of us wanted this poppy change. And they dragged in the gay community who had no interest in it in the first place. And the only interest they have in it now is because I keep doing that, but like the crazies in Toronto and Ottawa and probably Vancouver took wind of it. And they're like, well, what's the problem with having a rainbow poppy? And they're just like, do we have to explain the history? Like, listen, we're not excluding you. We're just saying, like, gay community has a whole month that's dedicated to them. Can we just set aside one day?
I know what you mean.
It's not even a day. I mean, yes, it's the day, but it's also we only ask for 60 seconds of silence to collectively remember that. And yeah, sure, maybe not everybody's going to be able to do that exactly at the 11th hour, but people as a culture, we still do give that moment of remembrance on that day. And it's not much to ask. It really isn't.
No, it's not. It really isn't. I mean, personally, I'd be a lot more bothered if the Canadian Legion, I assume it's referred to over there, rather than the British Legion.
Yeah.
I'd be a lot more concerned if people weren't donating to them.
Yeah,
because that's kind of the whole point of the poppy appeal. I mean, I think veterans would be a lot more bothered.
I think that's kind of the other thing, though, is their sales haven't been good. Like, they haven't been good for a while. And the other thing, too, is there's been a lot of high theft. And I can't say what this year's has been because I don't know yet. Like, they haven't really
reported it yet.
And they don't always report on it because they don't want to be honest about it. But I think that's where a lot of the anger is really coming from. It's that that people are trying to do their best to show support to these gentlemen. And we have a lot of the original vets still. Like, I mean, we have a few stragglers who are just, every time you see them and you see, I can't even think in their minds how they're looking at Canada right now.
Yeah, they're probably not very fucking amused.
And I think that's where Don Cherry's comments come from, is that he sees this happening on the street level, and people not only not wearing the poppy, which again, you don't have to. He's not saying you have to, but at least have some respect for the culture, and just not be an asshole about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to make too big a stink of it after this, but like, you know, it's one of those things where like, at least on my end, you know, I've escorted guys across the street, you know, the seniors with the hat and the poppy and all their medals, and, you know, just been like, hey, you know what? My grandfather lost his brother. Let me do my job and just give you our arm across the street. But
I don't. None of the gay community is kicking off, right?
no.
I see. Well, gay people could serve in the military. But gay people have served and are serving in the military right now. Like Poppy Day or Remembrance Day or Armistice Day is not just to remember those who have fallen and to pay respects to them. It's to pay respects to recent wars too. And to pay respects to current veterans as well.
And people just serving right now. Yeah.
And there are people who are serving right now. And there are veterans who are gay, who are trans, or, you know, are disabled. It's not about these individual personal characteristics. It's about being a veteran.
The unity as a whole,
it's not even patriotism, because okay, it definitely is some patriotism, you know, traits to it. It's not nationalism. It's not a political fucking ideology. It's supposed to be more than that. It's supposed to transcend everything. It's 2 minutes of silence, you fucks.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, that's such an, if that's such an inconvenience for you, I don't know what to tell you.
I have ADHD and I can be quiet for 2 minutes. What the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah. I think the thing that makes me so mad though is like, if I were to talk to my old boss and he was flamingly gay, like he was the guy who dressed up in the Queen outfit and he was very proud of it. You know what? I know what he was saying in my head when I thought about this situation, and he was just as pissed as I was, you know, because he's just like, can you stop dragging my community into everything? And yes, I know there's some in that community who are part of the problem too. But like, he's just
I guarantee you, it's the very vocal minority, very minor people.
That's the problem, though. That's what we've always ever spoken about.
Yeah,
you know, this has never been, you know, a massive opinion shared by millions in the same country. It's always a fucking small amount of loud bastards like that just somehow figured out how to influence.
Well, because they're saying the right things, and you know, big tech and the mainstream media are adhering to and latching on to these ideas that they're espousing, and it's just wrong, because anyone with a dissenting opinion is generally silenced or doesn't get coverage or what have you. And it's just a shame, because this is how Western society wants to deal with conflict. With words, with ideas, good ideas, you know, if they're all brought to the forefront, good ideas will always trump the bad ideas.
That's the point of freedom of speech.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why it's under attack in the Western world. It's because they realize that that's the only way that their bad ideas are going to get any traction, and it's a shame. But
I wouldn't get too black pilled over this though.
No,
guys, I really wouldn't. I mean, the veterans themselves, they probably are a little bit bothered by it, but they're probably not letting it get to them. No. They're probably just getting on with it, because that's that's all they want is just to get on. And
like I said to Jen earlier, even though Don Cherry was fired by his employer for the backlash, the quote unquote backlash to the comments, I also support the broadcaster's right to fire him.
But you know what? I also support the amount of sales they just lost, because I know, based off of numbers that I've seen yesterday, that they also lost a lot of subscribers who were like, freedom of speech, bitches.
Well, yeah, especially when you bring the employer's right to fire him if, you know, there are workers' rights.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. But I mean,
as far as I know, it doesn't sound like he breached any contract.
The guy's been on TV for near 30 years now.
Said and far they know things in this band.
Yeah, and they know that he's an outspoken guy. It's not like it's
100 times worse.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to pinch me every time I do that. But anyway,
well, no, I don't support people being fired. The rights.
No.
You have fucking rights as an employee.
No, but I mean, if there's a conflict of like, if you're in this kind of an industry, they're right to say, okay, well, you know what, we've decided, not in this specific case, but in general, you know, we don't feel that you're representative of
they want.
Yeah, well, they can, but ideally, I guess I'm being a little too idealistic in the matter.
But you know what? Like I said, like the other thing I can do just on my own is just every time I see a vet, learn that you're a vet, just tell you thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much for your service, Alex. I know you're not necessarily.
It freaks me out when people do that. It does. It's not a British thing to thank people for their service. Well, when I set foot in Miami, in fact, I hadn't even set foot in Miami. We were alongside in Miami, and we were chipping and painting the way, trying to get ship's maintenance done before going out and getting drunk. And the mayor of Miami walks up the forecastle, the pointy end of the ship. He walks up with an officer, and I'm covered in bloody primer and paints and all this type of stuff. And he was like, "Thank you for your service, man." Well, not man, obviously, but and he went. He stuck his hand out, and I said, "Oh, sorry, sir, I'm covered in bloody primer." And he went, "Don't worry about it." I was like, "Okay, if you want to get primer all that nice expensive suit you're wearing in this fucking heat, you lunatic." But yeah, thank you very much. It freaks me out. It's not a British thing to be thanked for your service, especially when you had. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was things that I did during my service that I think are worthy of actual service. But
Of course,
I was never in combat. I came fucking close to it, but I never entered full scale hot combat. If you want to say thanks, thank a veteran who's actually seen combat. Thank those guys, because they've been through shit.
I know in my personal experience, the thank you for your service thing is kind of alien to me. It's kind of latched on in the last few years here. But in growing up and just seeing one of those vets or whatever, a smile and a hello is basically, how we conveyed our thanks for their service, was just a friendly, hello, nice day kind of thing. And just a wink and a nod kind of way.
You want to thank him? Go give him money around this time of year. Like,
Yes.
you see the poppy appeal. Yeah, you see that shit in the supermarket. If you haven't got any change, go and get some change.
Drop a buck or two in and pick one.
I went and got cash back from the other till. I had to walk past the fucking table, which made me feel like a dick. But I went and got cash back, and I gave both of my kids some pound coins to go drop in the bucket. Because I want them to respect veterans and have an appreciation for it. Yeah. And that's not me swinging my dick around saying, oh, look at me. I give money to veterans. Give money to veterans. because they're freaking better than you. I'm joking. I doubt they would see themselves that way. But yeah, give money. The legions, British Legion, Canadian Legion, wherever country, that money goes to maintaining war graves. It goes towards helping veterans when they reach bad times. My mum's had to use their services. I've had to use their services.
Yeah.
Like the British Legion, and I imagine the Canadian Legion probably does it as well. They have all the access to a whole bunch of services.
Yeah, like building tiny homes for veterans.
Yeah, and my mum, she was in a bad way. She didn't have a lot of money. She needed a new washing machine, so she reached out to the Legion, and they got her a new one.
That's
and they made sure that they had warranty on it too.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that the Legion does a lot to help veterans, not just monetarily like that, but like through directing them to appropriate services to maybe get some mental health help or
they helped me with it, dude.
Yeah.
They helped me. Yeah. They were like, oh, we want you to go. I reached out to them, because I was in a bad way a couple of years ago. It may have been last year, actually. Well, I kind of went into crisis. So I reached out to them, and they were like, well, we can help you move house, and we will send you on this residential mental health course for 6 weeks. If you're not interested in that, here's a whole bunch of other good services that have been vetted. And we'll also pay for you and the family to go on a holiday.
That's awesome. That's
and
really
awesome. I was like, fucking hell.
That's going above and beyond, but yeah, like.
So here's the part where I could throw you both for a loop, because my family's weird in this sense. Because on my dad's side, he lost his.
Just in this sense.
Well, no, let me finish. But so my dad's side, he lost his uncle in World War II, and then on my mom's side, my grandmother threw her for a loop, because I didn't know that my grandfather had been an Austrian soldier during World War II. He was captured by the Russians, and he was in one of their concentration camps.
Ooh.
And he never told my grandmother until like I think he was well into his almost his 40s. And it was just one day, it was just like, I wasn't going to tell you about it because I didn't want you to think about what happened to me. But yeah. And then I don't know if they got him some help or something because maybe it was just overwhelming him or something. But my grandmother never told my aunt and my mother until I'd say about 10, 12 years ago. My mom just starts crying to my dad, and my dad's just like, what? And she's like, oh, she told me this. And it was just because he didn't want her, you don't want your kids to know, right? But but then you watch all those documents, but then you watch all those documentaries on what happened, because it's not like we don't know. And then
you don't have to show them the nitty gritty.
no.
You don't have to go too much into detail.
No. I can also imagine the amount of fear he might have had in letting somebody know that in his family, because that might change the perception of him, or they might treat him differently because of it. So I can somewhat understand it, but I can imagine also like holding a secret like that from your closest loved ones would take its toll on you for so many years.
Yeah. I never got to meet him. Like he ended up with stomach cancer, and he passed away. I think he was like 55, but it was just one of those things where I never got to learn about my history on his side.
Yeah.
So it's like I've got these weird connections in that way. Like I'm a long-term Canadian, but on the side of my mom, I'm not.
Oh, bless you, Jen. just always laughing like that at the most grim things. But yeah, I suppose that's the best thing to do, I guess. Isn't it?
It's how I've learned to deal with things. It's
a good coping mechanism. Yeah.
It's really how I've learned. Like it's even during like horror movies, I won't open my mouth until well afterwards. And then I'm just like sitting there like, this wasn't very funny. But
Jen, do you have a condition where you laugh uncontrollably?
No. Are you the Joker?
Do you have cards that you hand out to people when you're having these Yeah. The wife and I just saw that the other day. I was like,
it's such a good fucking film.
I need to see it. I keep hoping my brother will like download it and we'll just cheat, share it with me. But yeah, I should go pay for a real movie.
That's criminality, Jen.
I know, right?
I expect better from you.
I thought it was an all right movie.
I live in communist Canada. It's called sharing, okay?
It's the People's Republic of Kanakistan.
But no, I do want to see it. I was just... I've actually, I'm not far off from you in terms of losing a shit ton of weight, and some of it's planned and some of it isn't. I still have a hell of a lot longer to go, but I was like, well, if I lose another 40 pounds, maybe I'll dress up like the Joker, but with tits. You're like the dirty incel.
I didn't plan my weight loss either. It just started happening.
I've been putting it on. Ugh.
Well, go on.
Well, yeah, for me, it was just, it wasn't planned. And then it was just kind of like, well, since it's kind of going that way and I kind of needed to lose the weight anyway, I just kind of pushed it this summer. And then the last couple of months I've been really pushing it because once winter hits, it's maybe I'll get out for a good walk once a week.
Yeah, it does get that way up here.
So fuck your winter.
It's pretty brutal, especially with falling air conditioners.
Fuck that. What other shit's going on then? Or is the stream supposed to end now?
No, we still got a little bit more to go.
Nothing too much. I mean, like last month there was craziness going on with after the election. Our separatist movement got a lot louder in Alberta. And it's, don't get me wrong, I went into the motions of following them just to see what was going on. There was part of me that was rather pissed off and wanting to just, flip the bird at Ottawa a lot.
Yeah, flip the table and just walk away, yeah.
Yeah, but, obviously I rationalized and it was like, okay, Jen, you're just really pissed off, but it doesn't hurt to look at the information and share what's being talked about because at least then their issues are being addressed. But some of them, it's a lot of it's cringy. Like, I mean, first of all, you got the name, which was already cringy in the first place because stealing from the British already, we already have this problem. but doing it again. And then 2, there's a lot of guys in there that are twisting the plot a lot. And it's really a shame because I keep telling a lot of the younger kids that are in there, because a lot of these guys are like after college age. Some of them might have young families. So they're kind of in that mode of like, okay, how screwed are we this in the next 4 years? Because our job loss has been that fierce. And I'm not saying this because I support it. I'm just saying it's led to more than a few suicides because of the sudden way that it's happened.
Yeah.
I don't support that in any way, but I'm just saying that it's happened. They skewed the numbers on that, which pissed me off. I don't like looking that stuff up, but hearing that they were lying and skewing the numbers as much as they were made me really mad. And then the other thing too is they're going at it like in a way that could get a lot of kids in trouble, and I that's why I've been sharing their stuff, because I'm trying to get some bigger voices to come in and start like clearing that out. I don't have a problem with a group of college students having conversations about Canada and things that they'd like to change, and things about our constitution that they'd like to improve. I have no problems with that. That's something I support 100%.
But being hyper aggressive activists, it's not going to help anybody. Let the cooler heads prevail. Try to talk them down off the ledge and say to them, hey, look, we have a system. Let's use it to get our ideas and our voice out there, and people will latch on. And like I already shared with you, Jen, your premier is starting to espouse the cooler ideas, to get a little bit more autonomy, a little bit more identity and representation. Yeah.
And that's more of what I'd like to support. I'd rather support somebody who knows what he's doing, who has the same love for Canada and my province and the people here. It's just like I said, a lot of what my decisions were based off of emotions. I didn't do anything too hasty. It was just mostly talking to people and talking people down and just like getting the conversation going. And I just put my foot down and, I kind of went crying to Scribe first because I needed to speak. I needed to say this stuff because a lot of people don't know a lot about Canada. There's a lot of things that are wrong with our government. Like we did some things very right and some things very, very wrong. And it's been a long time where we haven't fixed it. It doesn't matter if you were conservative. It doesn't matter if you were liberal. Nobody's fixed this situation. And now that the population is as big as it is and as spread out as we are, it's something that needs to be addressed. So I came to Functional because I want to get a bunch of Canadians involved as well, so we can have guests. And I want guys like you to come on because some of our issues are not much different, Yeah. Same with Australia, same with the US. But I want to give you guys the dirty secrets in our closet because I want to see more pressure on all of us.
Yeah, because, I live in basically the political hot center of the country, and it's not really being talked about too much. So to just get it out there in the politosphere on the national level would really help, instead of just letting the crazies, the vocal minorities, the hotheads get to it first.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously we don't want to do this all the time, but it's just if you don't get the ball started and at least have a conversation a couple times about it, nobody's going to know. And let's be real, 90% of the world doesn't know shit about Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely
They're the
agree.
snow Mexicans up there above America who do silly things.
And I don't think that's really good. I mean, for the longest while, I think we were just doing that for just so we could preserve ourselves, because we are a land of resources. Like if you guys had any idea of the land of resources that we've been hovering over for the last 150 years, and we haven't done anything with it. We've just
yeah,
held
it's not
off
like
the
we
US.
want to go exploit the fuck out of everything, but we want to start utilizing it to make our country as a whole a more financial powerhouse on the global market.
But then
it's
you're
not
also
too unreasonable.
to just keep your mouth shut when you're just like, oh look, well there's Russia over here and then there's the United States down here, and I mean the UK might help us a little bit, but I mean they're broke half the time, so let's just keep our mouths shut and just be really nice. And hi, Alex.
Hello. I was just listening to you both. I understand what you mean. I mean, during my
But not
tenure,
knowing the minutia of it, it is hard to, have a comment one way or another. I get that.
well, yeah, it's hard for me to kind of comment on this because during my tenure as a shitlord, I guess, I didn't pay much attention to Canada.
Yeah.
Because y'all are quiet. Most of the chaos was going off in America and the UK. And obviously, it's going to be a lot louder for me being in the UK than what it would be being a Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you were to put our loudest, most probably ignorant Canadian out there, I mean, you're probably looking at like a Jim Carrey, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, most people don't even pay attention to him. He's just that crazy guy from Canada who's just lost his mind because he's a celebrity. Most people don't know shit about us. Or maybe you get a Celine Dion who's like somewhat normal, but let's be real, she's crazy too. Or who else are you gonna go to? Justin Bieber? Okay, well, like he's I wouldn't say he's crazy, but like I mean, he just went through like being.
Yeah, he did admit he's having some emotional mental health issues, but that's to come with the territory of being a child celebrity.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I think what he's gone through is probably more normal than what I've seen a lot of them do. But even still, I'd still say he's probably half crazy too.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't really see a lot from Canada anymore, and a lot of our best guys are passed away or are like William Shatner still a hero, but.
Well, like we talked about on the last stream with Caligula, we had our own mad lad veteran who nobody even in Canada really knows about. We don't put these people, I don't want to say on a pedestal because that has certain connotations, but we don't bring these people front and center to say, hey, this is a real life Canadian hero. This is a real life Canadian icon that, we don't like have to worship or anything, but we should take notice of and maybe promote on a global level like certain other countries do with their heroes and their folk heroes and their war heroes and people with a bit of celebrity and acting chops. Like it's one thing to say, oh yeah, that William Shatner's a class act and he's also Canadian. It's kind of like we're always a footnote and
like that's sad.
Shit both. You sound so sad.
I know, right? We are.
No one knows who we are.
No one knows who we are.
Well, that's why we're doing something about it.
I don't want to be the invisible guy.
So you should. I mean,
if I was the invisible guy doing naughty things, that'd be great. But I'm the invisible guy being nice all the time, so it's kind of boring.
And here I've been assuming your gender the entire time. I'm so sorry, Jen. I didn't know you identified it as a guy.
Oh, thank God I don't. No offense to those who do. I'm just, the leaps and bounds that some of that crowd goes through. I'm just like, okay.
Speaking of snowbacks, I've had a lot of recommendations of Russell Brand in my. He's obviously not Canadian; he's British, but Russell Brand in my feed, and I'm obviously don't log into IRATE Bear anymore, so it's kind of odd that he would pop up in my. In my recommendations, but he's had this a long conversation that's been chopped up with Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
No matter what you think of the guy, that conversation is actually really good.
Yeah, no, I'm one of the people who's actually a fan of JPP and or JBP, and that conversation was actually really good because I don't think that Russell Brand is too out there frou-frou. I think he's very idealistic.
Yeah, he is. He doesn't understand several things.
But he's mostly open when somebody comes at him calmly and rationally with ideas and facts. And
yeah, I mean, one of the titles of the videos is like, "Oh, this is what a calm, rational form of disagreement is," or something like that. And like you can't even really tell that they're disagreeing because it's that just chill between them both.
When a Canadian meets a Brit.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's it's the typical thing, isn't it? We're both known, famous for being quite
civility.
Polite, civility, yeah, I suppose.
Even in the face of disagreement, yeah. For the most
part. Russell Brand is a fucking. I mean, I guess he's a firebrand usually, and he's not known
and he can
for.
Sometimes be, to use a little bit of your vernacular, a bit of a ponce every now and then. But
yeah, he that annoys me. That's one of the things one of the reasons why I don't like him. he doesn't understand a lot of what he's saying. He doesn't understand this.
He's regurgitating rather than educating.
He's spitting the dictionary at you when you're talking to him. And it's like, you keep talking about capitalism. It's like it's capitalism's fault. Well, actually, no, Russell. No, not everything is capitalism's fault. You fucking tard.
In fact, if we want to weigh those things, capitalism has done a lot more good than bad.
Yeah, exactly. He's a pain
but like anything, it's
man.
open to manipulation on some levels. That some bad can come out of X, Y, and Z. That's why we as Western society try to always better ourselves and our systems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, don't just throw, the tired old expression, don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's take the idea, let's have a discussion and see what comes of it first.
Yeah. And Russell Brand's he's a weird one, man. I mean, he really pissed me off a few years back. He had it in for the bankers, the bankers. He had a really shallow concept of what that even means.
Yeah, and I heard him regurgitating a lot of Bernie Sanders talking points.
Yeah. I doubt that he even knew what he was gobbing off about half the time. And like, he decided that he was going to have his own kind of little rally outside of a bank during the daytime, and that he thought that he would go and attack. Well, not attack, but I guess verbally challenge aggressively a member of the staff as they came out around dinner time, at lunchtime. That person was a bank clerk on £21,000 a year. That individual is not responsible for financial collapse. That's a guy who struggles to live. That really pissed me off. It really fucking pissed me off. It just imagine just going out for your lunch break. You work 8-9 hour fucking day, 5 days a week, 9 to 5 or whatever, and you've got Russell Brand in your face, and you're trying to go out. You're trying to go for a sandwich in your fucking 30-minute break, and he gets in your face and starts telling you you're a piece of shit, and that you're responsible for the financial collapse, but you're a bank clerk.
Yeah, it's just unwarranted.
You work behind a counter cashing checks, and
you're treating him like he's one of the big wigs who makes some of these bad decisions.
Yeah,
no, he's just a Joe doing a job.
Exactly. Like, it did make the news, luckily. Like, good, call the prick out for that. Like, fucking asshole. What dumb fuck thing to do in the first place.
Yeah.
Fucking retard, honestly. But he has some good points. He has a lot of bad points as well.
Yeah, and I think he's one of those people that we tend to focus more on the bad of things, and he just seems to be one of those magical people who people don't talk about the bad things and remember them as much as his rhetoric, but that's his base. That's just like you would with any sort of political figure, that they'll be behind him no matter what.
Well, to be fair, he did remove himself from the public limelight, as it were, as a comedian. Well, I mean, he has a YouTube channel. He does the YouTube thing. He's not really in the public discourse and in the face of the public as much as he used to be.
Sure.
So like, he's a lot of people will remember him for being a sex pest, because that's what he was known for. He was massive sex pest, massive drug addict, addicted to sex, that kind of stuff, and going into rehab. When he came out, when he decided that he would go into addressing politics, which is fair enough. Like, I get where he comes from with a lot of it. Like, our conservative government isn't exactly good, especially initially when David Cameron first took over and started applying austerity left, right, and Chelsea. But like, Russell Brand is quite naive too. Like, he did an interview with Ed Miliband. He was the leader of the Labour Party prior to Corbyn. And he stood there in a kitchen talking to him, and Russell he just sold on his ideas. Like, there was no skepticism. There was no holding his feet to the fucking fire. It's like, where was the fire now, Russell? The fuck? he's just a pain in the arse, It's like, I remember him going on Paxton. I think it was Paxton. And he interviewed him in a hotel. and Paxton was trying to get at what Russell wanted, and Russell couldn't articulate. That's funny because he couldn't articulate what he wanted. It's like
he's like one of those people who's going off script kind of ruins them.
Well, Paxton is known for holding any type of political figure to like their feet to the fire. He doesn't give a shit. Like he's a little bit more well versed and ruthless in how he goes about it. Okay, yeah, he is, but he wasn't like that with Russell at all. Actually, he was actually a lot nicer than what he usually is. It's probably because he's just like, oh, it's Russell Brand. He's a comedian. Who gives a fuck, you know? And he sat down with him, and he got at the core of, Russell was complaining about this, complaining about that, and they were all valid things to criticize the government over, and the issues that we all really face, Canadian, American, British. He was like, well, okay, so what's the answer? And he just kind of broke and started breaking into jokes and stuff, and Paxton was he got really defensive as well, and Paxton was like, well, I'm not having a go at you, I'm just trying to understand what it is that you want. And he did answer in the end, but it sounded a lot like fucking communism to me.
Well, duh. I mean, he is a huge socialist communist supporter, even though I don't even want to get into it. But
I can't remember what he said exactly, but there was something along the lines of utopian society. And the second that I hear utopian, I immediately think, oh, he's a commie. I'll have to get the interview for you because it's actually interesting to watch. Like, it is frustrating, but it is also it's quite entertaining at the same time.
Yeah, sure.
I'll get the link for you if you get a minute.
Yeah, I'd love to watch it.
Sure. It's not very long. He's done a lot of stuff on YouTube. He's even been on Joe Rogan Experience. Now that
I saw
and
that.
That I'd like to. I've not seen that. I'd like to watch that actually.
I mean, you know the type of guy Joe is. He's not the hold your feet to the fire kind of guy. He's the okay, so lay it on me, chief. Like, what do you want to talk about kind of guy? And he doesn't really push back on too many things. They mostly talk about things like spiritual experiences and how they related to drugs and a whole bunch of other different things that I don't quite remember off the top of my head. But it was a really good interview. That's why I think Joe Rogan, he's like the top of the game, like doing shows like that where, just giving people a platform is really good.
But I like Joe
Awesome,
because he can dick people without being a dick. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. And I've sent it to you in DMs on Discord, both of you, and I've dropped it in the chat there if you wanted to go check it out. I don't know if you do, but let me know what you thought of it. I might rewatch it after the stream. Because it kind of always tickles me a little bit. I think it's quite entertaining.
But like you were saying about Rogan, actually, challenging his guests. The perfect example is when he had Adam Ruins Everything on. And
he did.
They were talking about transgenderism and blah 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 and how it relates to children. And Adam would say something and Joe would be like, well, no, the statistics say XYZ, or the surgery doesn't actually affect the suicide rates statistically. And Adam's kind of just like like you can see Adam EXE does not compute sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he really held him to account for the rhetoric above facts, basically.
Yeah. That's what I like about Joe is he's very good at interviewing people. He can trip you over anything. I think like he's you may remember Bearing versus the Atheist Gamer a couple years ago, a live stream. Like Bearing's like that as well. He won't be an arsehole about it, but he will lead you into a trap. And if you don't realize that you're being led into the trap, you're fucked. And Tag is stupid, and I knew what Bearing was doing. Like Bearing didn't even it was obvious to everybody what he was doing. Like, I think Joe Rogan's like that as well, but it's a lot less obvious when Joe's doing it. Probably because he gets you relaxed, gets you some weed. You sit down, you have a drink, and starts the conversation, which is a natural thing to do. He's very natural conversationalist, but I think he's very aware of what's going on and what his like kind of like idea is to do, like what information he wants to get out of you, and how he's gonna dick you in the end, you know. That's my opinion anyway. So
I kind of agree with you on that, because some of the guys that he's got working for him that do the web search on any topic that they're doing, like some of the stuff that they pull out, like they know what they're doing. You know,
Well,
so
they come prepared. They definitely know who their guest is, and they definitely come prepared with that stuff cocked and loaded in case they bring something up. But you know, on the other hand, they also want to hear what the guest says, and if they bring up anything that they're kind of unsure with, those guys are great. Jamie's just like on the ball. He like fast typer and just brings up the relevant information at hand when it's there. Yeah.
Well, it's like with me, like some of the topics that I've been researching, you know, it really does pay to have a group of guys who know what they're doing. Like for a simpleton like me on the internet, looking up information on our Canadian web pages, not knowing how disorganized they were. It's like, we're really transparent, but you're going to look for at least an hour and a half for a simple question. You know, so I mean, and then on the same hand, there's certainly an engine thing going on where you're looking up articles on topics that you know are current, and you have to go like 30 pages in just to find something that's relevant. So that's been a thing too. So like having a team of people helping you with it, especially when you're not willing to go into like scary channels. Like I'm not willing to go onto 4chan of any kind. I'm not going on to, like, I know that those are places to go to find information if I want to, but I don't want to put myself out there.
No, I feel you there, Jen. How do you think I felt when I took on Amos Yee?
Yeah.
You know, like I had to go around looking up studies. You know, I'm typing things into. I'm like, oh my god, I've got to type something into Google. I'm like, oh no. Can children consent? You know, and I was like, I'm getting put on a fucking watch list here. I'm like, oh no, I didn't know what to type to get the studies up that couldn't implicate me at the same time.
You know, you don't want it for any nefarious reasons.
It's
but
almost like you wish there was a position in a police office, you know, where you could just go in and be like, listen, I just want to ask these questions for the stats because I'm doing an article. I don't want to look it up on the internet. I just want to ask somebody, can I do it here?
Yeah, like I seriously considered calling up my local police station and explaining to them what I was about to do, because like I thought I was going to get a knock at the door over this shit, you know.
I would too, living in the UK.
Google comes up with that shit. It's illegal to look up child porn, you know, and it's like, I know that.
It's not what I'm asking.
I want the statistics, motherfucker. You know, and I'm having to go into his sources, and one of them is a pro pedophile fucking activist group. I'm like, I don't want to go on it though, but I've got to debunk the fucker. So I know what you're saying, Jen. You have to go dumpster diving sometimes.
Yeah,
like booty.
Yeah, but you know, I prefer to do. Honestly, I'd prefer to do her type of, you know, dumpster diving, because you know at least some of the stuff that she brings back looks like worthy of, you know, selling it on eBay. You know.
Or using to track cats for dinner.
I had this image in my head the other day of her dumpster diving, and it was like a picture of a whale getting stuck in a can. You know, trying to get out. You know, like a fat dog trying to get into like a regular sized garbage can.
I wonder if her fingers got stuck in one of those plastic ring things for 6-packs. Chinese finger trap.
Guys, if I may interrupt. Interject's not the correct word, is it? Interrupt. Social Blade has just tweeted saying everyone should head over to the YouTube studio today to see if any of your videos got flagged as being made for kids. The new copper enforcement and auto detection from YouTube is rolling out, and you know it's going to be broken as fuck. So I recommend everyone go do that now. Pull your pants down, pull your socks up, guys. It's about to get fucking rocky in this bitch. All right, come on.
Especially for long-time creators.
Well,
that
yeah,
moment where I'm
yeah.
looking at my like channel of 16 people that I blatantly called Snow Mexican.
Yeah, today we're on my channel, but normally we're on Snow Mexican.
And I'd just like to point out that if I have to write them an email, I'll just be like, listen, you guys were the ones who okayed it 2 weeks ago. Just remember, you okayed it.
Yeah, but you know them; they can change their minds at the drop of a pin.
I know, right? I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be that sad about it. Like, that's why I made the extra channel, was just so that, like, if it did get dropped, I wasn't too worried about it, because that's the one that I'm streaming the Wexit stuff on.
Mhm.
And like I said, because it's not necessarily stuff that I don't outright support it, but I do support some of the things that they're talking about, because they're pointing out things that we could fix. So I want to stream it, but just in case they're still, it's like 46, honest to God, Alex, 46 Canadians on a Discord stream.
Don't do that.
That's far too many people.
Like only 2 to 3 people talking at any given time.
It's just that's just too much Canadian noise.
Right?
Like a boot, a boot, a boot, a boot, a boot, a boot, a boot.
But like
I don't know what you're talking about.
sickeningly polite, and I'm sorry, and okay, you go
Sorry.
first. And, okay,
Sorry.
sure.
Okay.
How about that one?
Damn! I spilled my Timmy's.
And my American friends now believe that half of my province sounds like Kermit the Frog.
Thanks
Which is
to
fine.
Jordan B. Peterson.
Jordan B. Peterson. And I'm like, and now that they've pointed it out, every time I'm walking around, I'm like, God damn it, you do! Stop it!
You should beat it out of them.
But yeah, no, it's oh my goodness.
All right, let's wrap this up. Sorry, the image of you walking down the street and now realizing all this, I was thinking of something from They Live, and Jen just like takes her earbuds out. It was like, oh my God, I hear them everywhere.
You know what? I would totally do that, and then I would start flooding the city with Pepe frogs, because I'm like, if we all sound like Kermit the Frog, we can just go all the way. I have finally found the land of Kekistan. And then everybody else would be like, wait a minute, you guys didn't create that. I'm like, well, you guys lost it 2 years
But
ago.
next thing you know, we'll have an article on the CBC. Hate stickers posted throughout Alberta.
Oh, yes.
Oh, man.
There's a part of me that wants to do it now because of that reason, though. Because guaranteed there'd be a flood of people coming to the province just to encourage it.
Yeah. And then this whole online movement would start, and it would be glorious.
It would be glorious. No, that would require stickers, and that requires money, and that would require someone to print them out for me.
Anyway, thank you, my co-host, my Snow Mexican in Crime, Genty Maxi, and our special guest Alex for showing up and
Thank you
shooting
very
the
much.
shit with us. And I think our next stream is Saturday, or has yet to be determined.
Yet to be determined. I might do
Okay.
it for Thursday, just because, like, I'm not taking over for Bloodwing. We are not taking over for Bloodwing. It's just
No.
for the next 2 weeks while he's busy. It's just, I know people are maybe looking for something to do, and it gives us a little practice.
Some crazy people to listen to on the internet.
All right, it gives us some practice, and then when he comes back, I could be like, see, we kept it warm for you so people would remember. Because you guys should go and watch Bloodwing streams, because they're good.
Yeah. He's a funny lad.
Funny
So is
lad.
Alex sometimes.
Well, I've been using
Fuck
him
you.
as my second papa online the last month, so
I'm hilarious.
You are hilarious.
you are hilarious.
Yeah, to laugh at. Yeah.
No, to laugh with.
Anyway, goodbye. Say goodbye,
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Yay, the broadcast.